specifically Aikido. And it's a great way to just slow down the process of that back roll. And as you can see here, each part of this alternative to Chakrasana can actually be broken down into its own posture or posture flow sequence. So even here, we are looking at a modified flame. Flame is a posture that we see in the shadow yoga tradition, and it's this wonderful transition where you come from standing all the way down into a seated position, and then we could take this seated position into a stretch or up and around to the other side. This is a wonderful meditative transition, and I always say that the yoga practice is the transitions. The postures, whether they're challenging or whether they are easeful, are just resting points. There's a lot of growth and awareness to be had within those resting points, but it's in these motion-filled moments, these transitions, is really where the practice happens. Your ability to stay centered, to stay in your breath, regardless of the movement happening around you, the movement happening in your body, the movement happening in the room. So we're gonna move on to this very basic stretch that you've probably seen or done in yoga classes many times before, and we're gonna kind of take it into this deeper variation. So I'm going to break this down for you a little bit, but this right here is just a wonderful way to get your class, get your students warmed up either before they go into Chakrasana or into this variation that we'll be talking about today. So right here we see the most basic spinal twist happening right here. Notice that there's no weight on the neck or head. All of the weight is actually on that shoulder. Some of these folks take this stretch into different modifications, just opening up that free arm, taking a little bit further. You'll see that even here in this handstand, or shoulder stand, should I say, there really should be very little weight on the head. Here's another picture where it looks like there's a lot of weight and pressure being placed on the neck, but actually you can see that the weight is rocked over to the side onto the shoulder and arm. And here again you see on the other side, here's a more developed variation of the same spinal twist. You can see we're focusing here on this, and the neck is actually lifted slightly off of the floor. So there is definitely some stretching happening through the neck muscles, but you can choose when you're in these beautiful floor stretches how deep. Here we have this back row in a more mild variation. So just moving through these postures, becoming intimately aware and present to all the stretches that can be had in these simple stretches are a really great way to ease into the backwards roll like this, which really happens over the shoulder and not over the neck. So at really no point was any weight on the neck. It looks like it. Now here we have Nona in this full expression of this stretch, and both shoulders are touching the floor, so it is more compression happening for the neck. So you're going to want to make sure with any of these floor spinal twists, any Chakrasana, any modification of Chakrasana, that the spine is loose and warmed. And even a spinal twist like this right here, just upright, is a great way to just ease the body, loosen the body for these more extreme twists. And look at her face is relaxed. She's clearly in her breath, gripping or clenching happening. And in this picture you see each person is in their own perfect spinal twist. And then we've got just good old halasana, plow pose. You can see her face is relaxed. So we're never really wanting to force the neck. And this plow pose, here we are coming into leaning over to one side. It's just a really great way to loosen up that thoracic spine and the intercostals between the ribs. You can see that one of these folks took it into that backward roll. Look how slowly we ease over the shoulder. And then we can press into plank pose. A little bit later, when we look at that roll again, you'll see some of us bring it forward into a runner's lunge or high lunge. It can be brought back into downward dog. So just notice the kind of deliciousness of slowing these transitions down. Here's that back roll. Weight is over the shoulder, not the head. And here the front row brings it into runner's lunge. Some of the other folks bring it into pigeon. So really, yoga is all about allowing your postures to center you, to bring you more in your center. So whether you're doing something really lovely, doing something really basic, ultimately, we're cultivating that internal experience of stillness, quietude, regardless of what's happening around you, regardless of